Hi guys, it's Becky. I'm going to be talking today about Mental Health Awareness Month. This month is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I'm kind of mad that I didn't put a video like this up at the beginning of the month, but things have been kind of crazy for me, so I'm sorry. I This channel is based on my experience with mental illness, and I want to keep to that, but for this video I will be using statistics as well. I don't like to do that because this channel is based on my experience, but mental health is a huge deal and it needs to be discussed more. And I want to use statistics to give a look at like the gravity of mental illness and mental health awareness, because it is a huge deal. So I will be using oh my god. It's been a day. I will be using some statistics, so I hope that doesn't bug you. I have so many. I have to pick some because look at this shit. So many. Literally so many. Literally 2 whole pages full. And then part of another page. Yeah. And after this one, I will be doing a video on Borderline Personality Disorder Awareness Month, because May also happens to be BPD Awareness Month. So I'm going to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm going to do this one, and then right after I do this one, I'm going to film the borderline one. So hopefully I get these up like consecutively, one right after the other. Because both are really, really important to talk about. So I have my little sheet here. I always like to have the little sheet so that I can give, have like a guide, because this brain gets sidetracked so easily. So first thing on here, disclaimers and triggers. Disclaimers: I'm not a professional. My videos should not be replacing a professional. So if you do have symptoms of mental illness or you're struggling, please don't just use my videos to get through it or take my advice, because like I said, I'm not a professional. I'm just one woman who has borderline and a few other diagnoses. So I just want to put that out there. Like, there will be some videos, like the video I posted recently, I posted 2, that were like semi-breakdowns. One of them was a breakdown, but one of them was semi-breakdown. And I didn't do a disclaimer on there because those are just me rambling. But when it comes to like giving, putting stuff out there that's about mental illness in general, like I definitely want to give that disclaimer because it is huge, and I don't want people to, I don't even know how to finish that sentence. Different people need different things, and I have learned that. And what might help someone might not necessarily help another person. So if my videos help you feel less alone, great. I'm glad. I really am. But my videos may not work to help everyone, like feel less alone, or someone may not agree with my views or things I say. So if you do have symptoms of mental illness, or you're just in general struggling, it doesn't even have to be mental illness. It can be just coping with something. Please see a professional. All right. I don't intend to hurt anyone or offend anyone with the things I say. And I the things I say in this video, for the most part, will be based on my experience, but I am using statistics in this video, so those links to those statistics will be in the description, as well as triggers and the helplines I mention. Everything is going to be down there. And I usually do put helplines and stuff in my description anyway, so there's that taken care of. So here are some of the triggers that I'll be talking about. All of them are listed below. I may miss a couple. I don't have that list in front of me. The main one is going to be, obviously, mental health. And I will be talking pretty in-depth about suicide and attempts. So, those are the two, like, big ones. And I will also be discussing some statistics on LGBTQ plus youth, or people who are LGBTQ plus, such as myself. So that as well, you know, if that's a rough spot for you. Yeah, I mean, there's other ones, but I can't really think of them right now. Oh, one of them is helping someone else get help. Like if you notice that a loved one is having a really hard time. I also discussed that. So, alright, I'm gonna get to the video now. Okay, so, why is it important to discuss mental health? Well, it is important because it's something that's very stigmatized, and it's looked at differently from different cultures and different religions and things along those lines. For example, I was raised in a European household. My parents and I immigrated from England. My experience with growing up in an immigrant household was that mental health was not very well understood. It wasn't talked about. And I'm not going to say that that's everyone in England or in Europe, but I do feel from my own experience that that is kind of, you know, at least in my house, was there. And, you know, that adds to it because I felt I couldn't go to my family about my mental health. So, you know, living in a house where, you know, it's kind of get up and carry on, walk it off kind of thing. You know, it's hard, and it can add to the mental health problems because you feel like you can't talk to anyone. And I will say this right now, I never want to shame my family. I love my family very much. And although we might not necessarily get along all the time, and I very often, even now, feel like the black sheep of the family, they love me, and I love them, and I wouldn't be who I am today without them. So I don't want people to think poorly of them based on anything I say, because they're not bad people. You know, I feel like part of why things were, or emotions in general, like crying and stuff like that, why they weren't exactly looked upon, like they were kind of looked down on in my house, was because my parents were raised in a completely different country, in a completely different time, and I've had to come to that conclusion that we're all different people, and what I need or needed might not necessarily be what someone else needs. So it's hard, especially when you have 5 children. I'm one of 5, literally the oldest of 5 children. So, things were hectic in our house. So I completely get that, you know, things were hard, not just for me, but for everyone. So, that's one thing, is different cultures, different views. Another is it's not very well understood. There's still research being done on mental illness, and there will be research being done for forever. I mean, people are different, like I've said, and everyone copes with things in different ways, and what someone's been through will affect them differently than if someone else went through the exact same thing. And that's important to talk about, because I know for me especially, like, just because someone acts a certain way in a certain situation doesn't mean that it's wrong if I act different. So that's another, mental health is, it's as individual as the person's, as the person who has it. And mental health isn't just mental illness. Mental health is taking care of your mental health. Yes, May, this month, Mental Health Awareness Month, doesn't just mean spreading awareness for mental illness. It means spreading awareness to take care of yourself mentally, so you don't end up with mental illness. And so, and another thing that, why it's important is so you can notice the signs of someone declining and notice them in you as well. Because I'll be honest, sometimes when I'm getting sick, like really sick, I might not necessarily even realize it. Sometimes it's my loved ones who point it out to me. They're like, you're not doing good. You need to take a break. Like, sometimes I'm unaware that I'm having a problem. So having someone in my life who can say, hey, I think you might be having a hard time. Are you okay? Do you want to talk about it? That's important. And just being there for the people you care about, for whether it's for their mental health or not. So, I'm going to get to some statistics now. I hate reading like this, but I'm going to, because there's so many and they're so important. And like I said, I will put the links to where I got the statistics from in the description of the video. So please don't think I'm just talking out my ass, okay? So, here we go. You're in for a wild ride. 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience mental illness each year. That's huge. Yeah. 1 in 20 adults experience serious mental illness each year. And depending on the studies that these came from, those terms don't necessarily mean the same thing. Serious mental illness, I don't know in what capacity it's talking about in this study, but for me, when it comes to the difference between just mental illness and serious mental illness, is mental illness is, it sucks and it's hard, and no one, I'm not trying to invalidate anyone's experience, because like I said, everyone is different, and what one person may be able to handle well, another person may not necessarily be able to handle well. So for me, when I think mental illness and serious mental illness, I think serious mental illness is to the point where you cannot function, or it significantly impacts your life to the point where things are, like, awful. I apologize. Dogs barking. Oh my god. having dogs is lovely, but sometimes I'm like, ugh. One sec. Blue. Hey. That's enough. Go lay down. Lucy. She's not gonna listen to me. Sorry about that interruption. Yeah. So, back to what I was saying, because I actually remember what I was saying this time. When I think significant mental health issues, I think to the point where you're unable to function. Or like on the brink of a breakdown. So, that's at least my view on that. I don't know to what capacity it's talking about in these studies. So, the next one is 1 in 6 U.S. youth aged 6 to 17 experience a mental health disorder each year. 50% of all lifetime mental illness begins by age 14, and 75% begins by age 24. This one is super sad, and I won't lie to you, when I do the borderline video, there's some pretty sombering statistics on borderline. So, yeah. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among people aged 10 to 34. That's huge. Like, that's just hideous. Like, I can't, no. I'm gonna move on. Alright, 20.6% of U.S. adults experienced mental illness in 2019, and that represents 1 in 5 adults. 5.2% of U.S. adults experienced serious mental illness in 2019, and that represents 1 in 20 adults. 16.5% of U.S. youth aged 6 to 17 experienced a mental health disorder in 2016. 3.8%. Sorry, I read like shit. I'm terrible at reading. Of U.S. adults experienced a co-occurring substance use disorder and mental illness in 2019. Now, that's a huge thing. There is something called comorbidity, and comorbidity is when you have more than one disorder. So, I have borderline and bipolar 2, and I have generalized anxiety disorder, and I have a lot of symptoms of OCD, and I do believe that I have PTSD, but I've never been diagnosed with that. I would be considered someone who is comorbid. I have more than one disorder, and that's very common. That's very common to have more than one mental disorder. Alright, what else do I have here? This is nuts to me. But the average delay between onset of a mental illness or symptoms of mental illness and getting treatment is 11 years. 11 years. Wow. I read that and went, couple more statistics here. I swear, I'm gonna be done soon. I promise. Statistics suck, and I don't like to read them, but with something as serious as mental health, I really felt it necessary to give facts. Um, Alright, so 10.9% of US adults with mental illness had no insurance coverage in 2019, and that's a huge deal because if you don't have insurance coverage, you're a lot less likely to go and seek help when you need it. So, because when you're suicidal, for example, and you're like really bad and you think I should go to the hospital, if you don't have insurance coverage, I believe that if that was the case for me, I would be a lot less inclined to go to the hospital because of the bills. Like, you have enough going on in your life already to be suicidal. The added stress of money going to get help for your illness would be completely daunting. I can't even imagine. Like, I'm very blessed that I have insurance, or I would not be where I am today. I see a therapist every week, sometimes twice a week, when I'm in a really bad place. So I really feel for the people who don't have insurance coverage. Because there is treatment out there, and if you don't have insurance coverage, you're so much less likely to go and get help because money. And especially with the pandemic, like, so many people lost their jobs. So many people were isolated at home and couldn't see friends or family for support. It's horrible. So I feel like this year and last year, Mental Health Awareness Month were humongous. And I'm not saying it's not every year. And to be honest, my view is every day is Mental Health Awareness Day. Every day is Suicide Prevention Day. Like, this battle does not stop for people who have mental illness. And this taking care of your mental health shouldn't stop after this month. Like, but at the same time, COVID hit people so bad, and people are still recovering, and it's going to take time, and I'm just so blessed that I was able to keep my insurance through the pandemic and be able to see a therapist. And I didn't have a therapist for like 6 months during the pandemic, because they were closed, and I hate phone calls. That's why I left my therapy group I was in at the beginning of 2020. It was because they quit seeing each other in person. We had to do it over the phone, not even like Skype or anything, just over the phone, and that triggers me. I don't know why, it just does. So, it's got off on a tangent there. I'm gonna get back to these statistics. Alrighty. This is another one about insurance. 11.9%, so a whole percent more than the above one. 11.9% of US adults with serious mental illness didn't have insurance coverage in 2019. And like I said, when I think serious mental illness, I think like to the point where you are about to have a mental breakdown and you need to go to the hospital. Or that it's significantly affecting your life to the point where people are seeing that there's something wrong and that you are like on your last straw. You cannot handle anything else. Let's see. And this is crazy. I think this is nuts. This statistic right here. 55% of US counties don't have a single practicing psychiatrist. That statistic made me speechless when I read it. I was like, ugh, oh my God. Like, you would think that when 1 in 5 adults in the US have some form of mental illness, that there would be at least one practicing psychiatrist in every county. But there's not. And that fucks with me, man. Like, I'm not even kidding. That statistic blew my mind. I just have a couple more, I believe. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm having tics, so I apologize for that. All right. This is crazy because, and this is terrifying to me because it's talking here about the ripple effect of mental illness and the issues it can bring. People with depression have a 40% higher risk of developing cardiovascular and metabolic diseases than the general population. And people with serious mental illness are nearly twice as likely to develop these conditions. That fucking terrifies me because my dad passed away from cardiovascular disease. And we didn't even know he had it. I already have heart issues. And I have significant mental illness. And I'm so scared that it's going to shorten my lifespan because I am so worried all the time. I'm under so much stress all the time. And when your body is stressed like that, it can't handle that, and you develop these problems. And that's really scary. And that's why mental health is so important, because if you don't take care of your mental health, you could end up with so many other problems that could kill you. And if you don't take care of your mental health could kill you. It's horrible. I thought this one was nuts too. High school students with significant symptoms of depression are more than twice as likely to drop out of high school compared to their peers who do not have symptoms of depression. I nearly dropped out of high school. So, I can speak from experience on that one. All right. This whole section is about suicide, so if you don't want to, this is a really important thing to talk about, so I hope you don't click off. But if you are really, really triggered by suicide or the mention of it, please do not feel like you have to listen to this, alright? Because there's a lot of statistics. Okay, so suicide, I already said this one, that it's the second leading cause in death among people aged 10 to 34 in the U.S. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the U.S. The overall rate in the U.S. for suicide has increased by 35% since 1999. So literally, in 20 years, my math is shit. I'm looking at that going, is that correct? It's close enough. That's ridiculous. Like, that's more than 1% a year. That's almost 2% a year. Okay, moving on. 46% of people who die by suicide had a diagnosed mental health condition. 90% of people who die by suicide had shown symptoms of a mental health condition, according to interviews with family, friends, and medical professionals, and that is called a psychological autopsy. Lesbian, gay, and bisexual youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than straight youth. And when they say lesbian, gay, and bisexual, I would like to think that that includes the rest of the LGBTQ plus community. I mean, obviously, it's a horrible statistic, but I don't want people who are in the LGBTQ plus community who are not lesbian, gay, or bisexual to feel like they're not, like their experience isn't valid or cared about. So, in my eyes, I'm going to include all of them. And it bothers me that they don't say all of that. So yeah. And this one is really, really sad, because I have transgender friends. Transgender adults are nearly 12 times more likely to attempt suicide than the general population. And that's horrible. 78% of people who die by suicide are male. And men, this is something I've heard numerous times. There's not a statistic on here for it, but I know from personal experience, knowing men and women who have killed themselves or attempted, or knowing loved ones who had someone commit suicide. Men usually use more violent methods than women. So women, I mean, when I think suicide and I'm thinking about doing it, the first thing I go for is medication to overdose. And my sister has attempted, and that's what she's done. I know someone who, I know a male who shot himself in the head. And he succeeded in committing suicide. So it really does, and this also brings up the stigma that men can't cry, or that men get judged for going and getting help for their mental health. Which I think is absolute bullshit, because they're human beings too, and they shouldn't be picked on or told that they just have to man up. Like, I think that is absolute horseshit, and if anyone thinks that way, bye, Felicia. No. Like, that makes my blood boil. Because I've had male friends come to me crying because they're having problems and they feel they can't go for help. And they know I'll listen and be there for them. And it's sad. It's so sad. Because they feel like they can't talk to anyone. So they feel alone, and then they end up killing themselves. And that statistics just shows it, that, it's just sad. These statistics are sad. But they need to be talked about. They need to be known, because this is important shit. This one's a pretty somber as well. Annual Prevalence of Serious Thoughts of Suicide by U.S. Demographic Group. So, 4.8% of all adults have had serious thoughts of suicide. 11.8% of young adults aged 18 to 25 have had serious thoughts of suicide. 18.8% of high school students have had serious thoughts of suicide. And 46.8% of lesbian, gay, and bisexual high school students have thought about suicide seriously. And like I said, I want to include all the LGBTQ... I get tongue-tied so fast. The LGBTQ plus community. I like to envision that they're included in that too, but they might not be. But anyone who's part of the LGBTQ plus community, your experience is valid. If you have had suicidal thoughts before, it's valid. I don't want them, I don't want anyone to think that no one cares about them. Because, their, for lack of a better term, label or sexuality is not on here. Let's see here. Okay, so there's one in the mental illness and criminal justice system that I really wanted to mention. It's the only one I have marked, and there are others, and I will include the link to where I got these statistics from. I could not read both pages. That would have just been forever. So you can go on that website and look at all the statistics for yourself if you want to. But this one I thought was really important. So, nearly 1 in 4 people shot and killed by police officers between 2015 and 2020 had a mental health condition. It's hard, because when you have something going on mentally, you can do crazy things, and psychosis. People go into psychosis and they don't know where they are. They're completely out of touch with reality, and they might act violent. And I hate saying that, because I don't want people to think every single person with mental illness is violent, because that's not true. But I don't want to blame police officers for that. I don't want to blame them for having to shoot someone, because I've heard stories where someone was psychotic and the police officer felt threatened or legitimately was wearing body cam, and this person came at them with a knife, and it's sad. It's so sad. So I thought that was a really important one, because, especially when it comes to mental illness, it's hard, because mental illness is literally a disease of the brain. And if you have mental illness, you're more likely to behave irrationally. And, like I said, I don't want people to think every person with mental illness is violent, because it's not true. The majority of people with mental illness are not. But you do have some people who do have violent reactions when they're mentally ill. And, I feel like one thing I put in wrote in right next to that statistic and put a star next to it is training. Not every police officer is trained in handling mental emergencies. I wear a medical alert bracelet for multiple reasons, but the main one is because I am terrified that one day I may snap and be so inconsolable that no one can get anything out of me. And I have on this medical alert bracelet my name, mental illness, because I want that on there. Because I do act irrationally. I've never been violent. Well, at home, like with my siblings, when we were younger, I was violent. We got into fights often. But outside of that, I've never been violent with anyone. You know, when I'm triggered or something happens, it's usually oriented at myself. You know, and I get scared because I do go into meltdowns where I cannot explain what's happening to me. And to someone who doesn't know me or a police officer, they might consider that, you know, a threat. And I feel like training in mental health and mental conditions should be a necessity, especially for emergency workers and the police, because sometimes you can de-escalate a situation by understanding what might be going on in the person's head. Or I've seen where there was like a video I saw, I don't remember when or where it was, but where a person was autistic and the police were trained in that and they could handle it better. Like they didn't have to resort to any violence or anything because they understood that this person was autistic and they knew how to handle that kind of situation. So I do believe that training and education is huge when it comes to mental illness and mental health in general, not even just about mental illness, like knowing how to take care of your mental health. You know, I feel like everyone could benefit from therapy, even if it's not specifically for a mental illness. Like, I know people who are not mentally ill who have horrible issues with boundaries. Like let people walk all over them. And I'll be honest, I'm one of those people. I have a hard time saying no, and always have. And I have very porous boundaries where I let people take advantage of me all the time. And I'm a lot better than I used to be. But I feel like a lot of people don't understand what healthy boundaries are, or what healthy coping healthy coping skills are for situations. And I feel like in school there should be a class for this stuff. Like, not just like a psychology class, but like a required class that helps you learn how to communicate better, how to handle stressful situations. And I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, I don't know, but I feel like that should be a requirement, because I meet people all the time and I'm like, I'm fucked up and I know that. But I'll look at a situation someone is in and I'll be like, that is fucked. Like, that is so unhealthy. And they're not mentally ill because I know the person and they don't have mental illness. They just don't understand healthy like, I don't even know the right word to say after that. Like, they don't understand healthy things when it comes to your mental health, you know, and what's good for your mental health. Let me see here. I don't have any more statistics, which, thank God, because some of those were really depressing. So, let's see here. I have two other topics I want to talk about. I don't want this video to be crazy long. So, I will give some places that you can get help. Because having access to help for mental health is huge. And I've said before in a previous video I did, when you're suicidal, or you're really depressed, or you have a lot going on in your life, you don't want to look online for resources. Like, there are times where I'm really suicidal, and I just go to bed because I don't have the energy to look up a suicide hotline. Like, it's awful. So I like to include all of this stuff in my description so that if someone is browsing or something along those lines, they can see the stuff right there. So what you can do, like where you can get help. I'm going to read off a few things here. So, resources online. I have a whole ton of them in the description below. 911. If you're in an emergency and you don't think you're safe, like, you can't guarantee your own safety, you need to call 911 if you can't get to the nearest emergency room. And if it's that bad, to the point where you feel like you're a danger to yourself, that's definitely the thing to do. Now, for me, one of the most important things has been hotlines. And I'm going to give you the numbers. They're listed down below as well, but I'm going to give you some numbers. So, let's see here. Alright, so, first, 911. If you're having a serious mental health crisis, call 911. Or go to your nearest emergency room. You can also call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. This is like the big one when you search like suicide online or suicidal. This number pops up. It's 1-800-273-TALK, like TALK, but the actual numbers for that are 8255. Or you can text the crisis text line. You text either home or hello to 741-741. And that's for people who are like so awkward on the phone like me. I've used that text line before and it's really great. Let's see here. There is something called the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA for short, and they have a treatment referral helpline, and that is 1-800-662-HELP, and the actual numbers for that are 4357. Let's see here. Where else? What else? Okay. There is a place down, like, on here that I wrote down called the National Institute for Mental Health. Their website is nimh.gov. They have a lot of resources on there. And for anyone who's viewing worldwide, most of these are for America. But I did research because I don't want anyone to feel like they can't call someone or talk to someone. So there is a website called Suicide Stop. And I have the link down below, along with like 5 or 6 other links to where you can get international help. And it has like a list of like every country. So those are the main ones. Things you can also do are confiding in a loved one if it's not an emergency. You can also look for a therapist or a psychiatrist, because I will be doing a video on medication management and my views on medication, because they have changed greatly over the past few years. But sometimes medication is necessary, you know, and therapy is necessary sometimes. They've saved my life, so I can speak from experience on that. Now, you can also go to a school counselor. If you're still in school or if you're in college, you can go to your school counselor, and they may have resources that are closer to you in your area. Now, what to do if you or someone you know is suicidal. This is huge, okay? If someone even makes a threat, like a joke, because I know people, my sister is like this, where they will say like an underhanded joke comment, like you think they just have like a dark sense of humor, but like it could legitimately be a cry for help. You know, and if that happens, or someone confides in you that they are suicidal, it's huge, and you need to do something. You need to tell someone, or you can call a suicide hotline for them. You can call 911, or take them to the ER. You can talk to them and see, hey, you made that comment. Are you okay? Please be honest with me. You know, is there something I can do to help you? Because when someone makes a comment like that and they mean it, and someone ignores it, I can tell you from experience, that will make a person feel so alone. And when someone feels alone, they're more likely to do it. From personal experience, I know that. Another thing you can do that I feel people don't realize they can do is do a welfare check. You can call the police and say, hey, I'm worried about this person. Could you please do a welfare check on them? And they will go to their address and check on them. And I mean, obviously, if you know someone, and because like now you can meet people online and stuff. Obviously, if you know someone and they don't live near you, or you don't know where they live, you might not be able to do that. But even if you're worried about someone in a different state, if you have their address, you can call the police and they will transfer you to the right people to get a welfare check done. So please don't think that there are not resources out there for you or for anyone you know who is struggling, because mental health is a huge thing and it needs to be talked about, and people need to know that there are resources out there, instead of, because you don't need to suffer in silence. It's not fair. You shouldn't have to carry all of that around with you. I did for years. And I know how painful it is. And it makes more damage. It creates more damage. And then it's harder to recover. It's harder to get better. So, I'm going to end the video here. But please understand that you're not alone. Alright? When people struggle with their mental health, usually there's a tendency to feel alone. Like you can't talk to anyone. But I'm telling you, I have used these resources before. I have used suicide hotlines. I have used text lines. I have gone to the hospital. And I'm still alive. And especially hotlines and text lines. Like, this is a person you don't know. You don't even have to look at them. And They can talk to you about your situation and be unbiased. You know, because if you have a friend you're wanting to talk to about this, they might know you and their, you know, the situation, and they may have, you know, lean one way instead of being neutral. So I have had people help me tremendously on hotlines and text lines. So please don't think it's stupid to reach out for help on a hotline or a text line, or reach out to a friend or go to the hospital. Don't think it's stupid, because it's not. So please, please take care of yourselves. Do what you need to do to keep yourself healthy, because your mental health is huge and it can completely destroy you. It can impact not only your thoughts and your feelings, your behaviors, your body, because when you're stressed, your body reacts to that. And it can cause significant problems. So your mental health is really important, and you can take steps to keep your mental health well. Couple examples: getting the right amount of sleep a night. Figure out what your good amount of sleep is. Get it. And if you have trouble sleeping, go see someone, or take melatonin or something like that can help. Give yourself time to just zen out. Like, take a warm bath. You know, aromatherapy. I use aromatherapy very often. And, you know, I also meditate. Meditation is huge, you know, just giving yourself time to yourself, not having to worry about anything. Saying no when something is stressful. When you have enough on your plate, say no. If a friend says, hey, could you take me here? I need a ride. And you already have like a million things going and you're stressed out already, say no. Like, your health is important. And I used to think everyone else's health was more important than me. I have become more selfish, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I used to let other people run my life. And I used to worry more about the people I cared about than worrying about myself and my health. But it's like on airplanes, when they say put your mask on before you help other people. That's exactly how it is. If you don't have anything in you, what are you going to give to other people? You have to take care of yourself first. All right, so please be safe, guys. Reach out for help if you need it. And take care, because it's really important for you to take care of yourself. I'll see you later.